Hey, tonight we're exploring perfectly normal things you do that are actually ancient survival instincts in disguise. You lie in bed, lights soft, maybe a blanket pulled close even though it's warm. You're not thinking about caves or predators, not thinking about the millions of years that shaped how you curl your body, which side you sleep on, why your toes might still stick out just a little, testing the air. But your body remembers. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy quiet stories like this. And if you're still awake, feel free to comment with where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie in a fetal position. It feels natural, safe. Your spine curved forward, shoulders slightly hunched, knees pulled in. Not unlike the position of a fox curled into its den or a newborn in the womb. It's how you slept when you were very small. And long before that, it's how mammals have slept for millions of years, to guard their belly, protect the heart, reduce surface exposure to cold and to threat. Even if you sleep on your back now, you probably did not always. Most people, especially in moments of stress or vulnerability, return to that inward curl. And blankets, soft, warm, familiar, become our modern version of foliage or fur, a form of covering, a makeshift shield. The feeling of pressure from a blanket can signal safety to your nervous system. It tells your ancient brain, you're hidden. There's a reason sleep can feel vulnerable, because for most of human history, it was. Sleeping deeply meant missing the rustle in the bushes, the footfall of something that was not part of your group, or the sudden silence of insects right before danger. Your ancestors, not the abstract ones, but the actual people in your family line, survived because they could rest lightly, awaken quickly, and huddle in clusters for warmth and watchfulness. One fascinating fact, anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies found that in groups of 20 or more, someone is always awake. Even when people sleep through the night, a subtle, natural rotation of wakefulness occurs. This means that long before alarm systems and locked doors, human beings evolved collective security through staggered sleep. You, curled in bed now, might still be part of that rhythm. Your body remembers, and not just in the posture. Have you noticed how much more deeply you sleep when someone you trust is near? A partner, a pet, even the hum of distant voices through the wall. It's not coincidence. The presence of another, even unconsciously, signals reduced danger. You can let go more easily when your ancient instincts believe someone else is standing guard. And then there's the cold. You may sleep with blankets even in summer, a thin sheet at least, something to press against your skin. This isn't just habit, it may go deeper. Your ancestors were not sleeping in temperature-controlled homes. Nights could be cold and covering up was essential. But beyond heat, covering provided camouflage, a layer between your body and the night. Even animals use this logic, hiding under leaves or burrowing into the earth. Today, it might be a comforter, but to your brainstem, it's still a form of cover. Eerie thought. In certain environments, people who slept too soundly or in the open often didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. Evolution then has shaped a brain that resists surrendering to rest without certain cues, a familiar scent, a tucked-in position, a soft noise in the distance. You're not imagining your bedtime rituals. They're thousands of years old. And yet, despite the millions of years shaping these habits, researchers still debate the true purpose of sleep. We know it restores memory, clears toxins, rebalances emotion. But no one knows exactly why sleep has the form it does, why we cycle through phases, why our consciousness fragments the way it does, or why, after all these years of evolving, it's still dangerous to become unconscious for 8 hours. Maybe that's why we create rituals, the brush of teeth, the check of locks, the placement of your phone, just close enough. Maybe, somewhere deep inside, your mind is building a perimeter, not around your house, but around your awareness, preparing to let go, but only when it's safe. Tonight, as you lay there, your feet cool but covered, your body curved not unlike a sleeping hare, you're not regressing, you're remembering. Your DNA is fluent in a language you don't speak, a language of silence and stillness, a language where even sleep is an act of survival. You don't need to be in a forest for this to matter. You could be in a quiet bedroom, a high-rise apartment, a student dorm, or a farmhouse out in the hills. But the instinct still lives in you. Sometimes in the way your eyes glance toward the door before sleep, sometimes in the comfort of turning your back to the open room. You are not paranoid, you are ancient. The comfort you feel now, this gentle surrender, was earned. Generation after generation, body after body, protecting this exact moment. This soft drifting into something older than language. Let yourself settle. There's a sensation you know well, even if you haven't named it. You're alone in a room. It's quiet, still. You're reading or scrolling. Maybe you're just thinking. And then, suddenly, you feel it. The sense that something is behind you, watching. You glance up, maybe turn your head slowly. Nothing there, but the sensation lingers, the subtle electric tension at the back of your neck. The hairs along your arm lift as if stirred by an invisible current. You know, rationally, there's nothing there. But another part of you, the older part, isn't so sure. This reflex has a name. Hypervigilance. It's not paranoia, it's not fear, it's something far older. And in truth, it's probably saved millions of lives. Your ancestors lived in places where silence was suspicious. A predator doesn't always growl or roar. Sometimes it waits, silent, still. The way a panther melts into shadow, or a snake becomes the shape of a branch. In that kind of world, false positives were far better than fatal delays. So your nervous system evolved to detect threat, not just with eyes and ears, but with pattern, with feeling. Your brain is constantly scanning, even now, for subtle inconsistencies. A shadow that shifts the wrong way, a silence that becomes too deep, a creak from the hallway that doesn't fit the pattern. It's not just superstition. In one remarkable study, researchers discovered that people can sense when they are being watched, even when vision and hearing are fully removed from the equation. In some cases, the body reacts before the conscious mind does. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, pupils change diameter. These aren't ghost stories, they're survival systems, and you carry them still. There's a quiet eeriness in knowing your brain still believes in the dark, not with fear, but with awareness. The amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, lights up more in uncertain darkness than in clear danger. Because ambiguity is more stressful to a survival brain than certainty. If you see the predator, you can act. If you suspect it's near, but can't find it, your body stays suspended in readiness. That's what that feeling is. Not a sixth sense, but an old, persistent one. And the strangest part, this hyper-awareness doesn't turn off just because you're indoors or alone. In fact, modern spaces, tall buildings, artificial light, smooth textures may confuse your older instincts. There's no breeze here, no rustling of underbrush. So your brain fills the silence with vigilance, a kind of phantom awareness, like an old machine still running long after its original task is gone. There's a phenomenon called pareidolia, the tendency to see meaningful patterns, especially faces in random stimuli, the shape of a coat on a door hook, a shadow on a curtain, the curve of a pillow that looks for half a second like an eye. You're not imagining it, or rather, you are, because that's what your brain is designed to do. For your ancestors, the cost of missing a real face in the dark was far higher than the cost of seeing one that wasn't there. It's the same reason why you might find comfort in dim light, but feel unsettled by total blackness. Pitch dark removes all pattern, all feedback. And to a survival mind, that's not peace. It's blindness. In the wild, it meant the loss of control. So you might find yourself keeping a tiny light on, or facing the door, or scanning the room once more before settling in. These aren't irrational habits, they're echoes. And still, researchers debate where exactly this sensed presence comes from. Some say it's a misfiring of spatial awareness. Others believe it's tied to the brain's mapping of self and other, the same system that allows you to understand personal space, empathy, and boundaries. But no theory fully explains why, in the quiet of night, we feel as though something is near, even when we know it's not. One eerie case study from Antarctic expeditions found that explorers in total isolation would sometimes report a felt presence walking beside them. No hallucination, no figure, just a deep, persistent sense that someone or something was sharing their space. It didn't speak, it didn't show itself, but it stayed. Tonight, you might not be in a frozen wasteland or dense jungle. You might be in your room, quiet, safe, far from any real danger. But the same systems live inside you. And sometimes in the silence, they whisper. So when you feel that odd sensation, that sense of being watched, know that it's not foolish, it's not weakness, it's a survival gift, a reminder that somewhere deep in your biology, your body is still standing guard. Let that thought soften now, because even if your brain still searches the shadows, you are here. You are safe. You are resting. And the watcher, if there is one, might just be memory, your ancient self, keeping watch through the night. You shift your weight without meaning to. Your fingers drum the edge of a table. A leg bounces softly beneath the blanket. You sigh and get up to walk, not really going anywhere. You call it restlessness, maybe boredom, maybe stress. But somewhere beneath the surface, your body is solving a very old equation. Am I safe here? Should I stay or move? And the answer is rarely stillness. Even now, as you lie in bed, your fingers may curl or uncurl. Your foot may flex slightly. You may roll to your side, then back again. These movements feel small, meaningless. But to your brain, they're subtle checks for safety, the same kind your ancestors used under open skies and rustling canopies. For much of human history, to sit completely still was not always wise. Stillness made you vulnerable. Movement, even slight, gave you the edge. Better hearing, more oxygen, faster reaction. Fidgeting wasn't a sign of anxiety. It was a form of environmental scanning. A built-in motion to keep your edges awake. One fascinating fact, in studies of wild primates, low-level motion, shifting weight, plucking leaves, scanning the horizon, is almost constant during periods of wakefulness. The moment they stop moving entirely, it's either because they're completely safe or in immediate threat. Stillness is either deep peace or deep panic. Everything in between is fidgeting. You do the same. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to meditate when you're alone, in silence? Your brain resists the idea of stillness unless it's supported by context. A closed room, a locked door, the sound of another person nearby. Otherwise, you bounce your leg, you rub your fingers. These are micro-calibrations of your environment, a way of checking the silence, the eerie detail. Some scientists believe that the sensation of antsiness isn't mental at all. It may originate in the proprioceptive system, the one that keeps track of your body's location in space. When that system doesn't get enough feedback, your brain invents motion to compensate. It says, something's wrong. Move. Just enough to feel real again. And if you've ever paced while thinking, walked a hallway, circled a room, wandered without destination, you're continuing a ritual that predates walls. Pacing is a scanning behavior. Your brain says, I'm solving something. But I also need to be ready to act. So it walks, like an animal testing the wind. There's also a curious benefit to motion. It unlocks thought. In a controlled study, participants who walked, even in small circles, solved problems faster and recalled more memories than those who stayed seated. The mind, it seems, trusts motion. It was trained that way, long ago. But this restlessness isn't always useful now. In a world with tight spaces, long meetings, confined routines, fidgeting gets labeled as distraction. We tell children to sit still. We ask each other to stop tapping. We forget that our very ability to survive came from that exact twitch of readiness. There's a reason so many of us sleep better after movement, a walk, a stretch, a quiet evening task. It's not just to tire the muscles, it's to satisfy the instinct, to tell the old part of your brain, we moved, we scanned, we're okay now. And researchers still wonder, could restlessness be the leftover language of the limbic system? The body's way of keeping the mind grounded by refusing to let it drift too far into stillness? Not all questions need answers. Some just need quiet. You are allowed to move even when nothing is chasing you. You are allowed to shift, stretch, or trace small patterns on the sheet with your fingertip. You are not distracting yourself from sleep. You are easing the old circuits into rest. Let the body know the pattern has been checked. The air is calm. The muscles can stop watching. The pulse can settle into rhythm. Tonight, if you find yourself tossing, adjusting, curling into new shapes, be kind to that motion. It's not impatience, it's memory. The gentle ghost of a creature that once had to sleep on the edge of a forest clearing. A creature that survived by listening with its bones. Let your fingers still. Let your jaw loosen. Let the rhythm of your breath be the only motion left. And slowly, your inner animal might believe there's nothing to solve tonight. You stand in front of the fridge. You're not hungry, not exactly, but something inside you is calling for sweetness, or salt, or fat. Not a craving for nourishment, more like a quiet urgency, a tug. Just one more bite, one more handful, one more spoonful. And then maybe, as you return to your spot, the voice creeps in. Why did I do that? I wasn't even hungry, but you were. Not in your stomach, in your past, in your DNA. Because once, not so long ago in the grand scheme of things, food was not guaranteed. It came in bursts and absences, in the fall of a deer, the ripening of a tree, the brief abundance of berries before the frost. And in that world, to pass up food was to risk regret. To indulge when food was plenty was not gluttony. It was strategy. Your brain, even now, treats calories as currency against future famine. And while your conscious mind knows there's a store nearby, the deeper, older parts of you, the ones that shaped your instincts, haven't caught up. One fascinating fact, the brain's reward system lights up more intensely for calorie-dense foods than for plain ones, even when the taste is held constant. In experiments, participants were unknowingly given identical yogurts, but one was infused with extra fat. Time and time again, their brains reacted more strongly to the fatty version, even if they said they preferred the other. It's not about flavor, it's about survival math. Your brain whispers, store this, just in case. And you do. Even the time of day affects your hunger in strange ways. Late-night snacking, for instance, may seem like a bad habit, but it echoes something older. In hunter-gatherer communities, evening was when food was finally prepared. Fire was lit. The hunt, if it had succeeded, brought meat. So the ritual of eating in the evening light isn't just cultural. It's biological. The eerie detail, even your preferences for food texture and temperature, might trace back to survival. Warm foods, freshly cooked, safer to eat. Crunchy sounds equals freshness, fewer bacteria. Soft, cold, or slimy textures can trigger hesitation, not because you're picky, but because your ancestors learned to associate those sensations with danger. And then there's the hoarding instinct. Why you buy in bulk, why you fill the pantry, why an empty shelf feels more threatening than it should. The brain's ancient logic says, abundance now means survival later. And even if your freezer is full, a whisper says it might not always be. Researchers are still debating the extent to which modern food behavior is influenced by ancient scarcity. Is it just biology? Is it cultural inheritance? Or does the body carry an imprint, a kind of epigenetic echo of your great-grandparents' hunger? Studies on families who lived through famine suggest it's possible, that the trauma of not having enough can change how genes express themselves generations later. So when you reach for that extra bite, when you finish the chips even though you meant to save some, you are not broken. You are ancient. You are living in a world of abundance with a brain built for absence. You are surrounded by food, but ruled by circuits that still believe winter is coming. Still believe that the forest might grow quiet again. Still remember when every calorie was the difference between life and loss. And maybe that's why some foods comfort us so deeply. Warm bread, a sweet drink, a soft meal in silence. They speak to a place beyond hunger. They say, you're not in danger anymore. You made it. You have enough. But even then, the patterns persist. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the voice that calls your instincts bad. They are neither good nor bad, only old. And they helped your kind survive. Tonight, whether you ate too much, too little, or not at all, know this. Your body is not working against you. It's working through you, trying to make sense of a world with no predators, no hunger, but all the same instincts. Let the stomach settle. Let the mouth stop searching. Let your body remember that tonight, you're full, you are safe, and the hunt is over. There's something about a soft flickering glow, a candle on a desk, the shimmer of light behind a curtain, the way your screen glows in the dark, not bright, not harsh, just steady, comforting. Like something ancient has awakened in your eyes and said, yes, this feels like home. You're not imagining that pull, that quiet magnetism toward warm light in the dark. Because long before lamps, bulbs, or pixel displays, humans lived by flame. Fire was survival, warmth, food, protection. But even more than that, it was companionship. A circle of faces gathered around flickering light, exchanging stories, watching shadows dance on stone. Fire became not just practical, but sacred, and your brain remembers. You may not sleep in caves anymore, but when you stay up too late, scrolling under dim light, when you keep a show playing just soft enough to keep you company, you are, in a way, gathering by the fire. One fascinating fact, Neurologists have found that flickering firelight reduces blood pressure and relaxes brainwaves, not just because of warmth, but because of the specific rhythm of the flame. It mimics natural biological patterns like heartbeats, breathing, waves. Your brain, tuned for thousands of years to watch for danger, sees that rhythm and says, "This is safe. This is familiar. You can rest now." That's part of why staring into a fire, or even a looping fireplace video, can lull you into quiet focus. It's not hypnotism, it's ancestral calm. The slow repetition, the glowing warmth, the boundary of light against dark. You're not just seeing light, you're seeing protection. Nothing outside the circle can enter without warning. Even campfires today, no matter where they are, tend to pull people into shared silence. Voices drop, faces soften. It's almost ceremonial, even if no one says so. That fire, real or simulated, also satisfies another deep need, the need to mark time. Before clocks, before calendars, there was only sun, shadow, and flame. As fire burned lower, people learned to measure the passage of night. Your brain may still feel comfort in this slow, glowing countdown. When the flame is low, it's time to sleep. And here's the eerie part. Some evolutionary psychologists believe that our love of storytelling began at the fire. During the day, there was survival, hunting, building, watching for threats. But at night, around the flame, humans could reflect. They shared fears, lessons, myths. The brain's appetite for narrative may have evolved in the flickering hush between one danger and the next. And what are your favorite shows? Your comfort videos? If not, digital fireside tales. You sit close, illuminated by the glow. You listen. You feel connected, not just to the story, but to the safety of story. Because when a story is being told, it means no one is running. No one is screaming. Everyone is still. The story itself becomes proof that everything is okay. For now. And even now, in modern homes with overhead lights, people instinctively dim the room and turn on a small light to feel calm. We build little fires again. Not of wood, but of wire and pixel. The instinct remains. Researchers still wonder, why does the brain respond so strongly to orange and red wavelengths of light at night? Why do shadows that move gently calm us? But sudden flashes frighten us? No one knows for sure. But it may be that movement inside a contained glow was once the sign of us, the tribe, the family, the known. While movement outside the circle meant the unknown. So tonight, whether your only fire is a phone screen or the flicker of a candle on the shelf, know that your draw to it is not weakness, not distraction, not procrastination. It's your mind seeking the ancient perimeter. A place where it's allowed to stop scanning, to soften, to dream. Let that soft light guide your eyes slower. Let the screen dim until it feels like embers. Let the glow blur into quiet. And know that even here, centuries later, you're still welcome at the fire. You walk into a room and feel it instantly, the shift in energy. You're not sure why, but something inside you checks the room like a radar. Am I welcome? Do I fit in? Should I speak or stay silent? It happens at school, at work, in your friend group, even online in the quiet space between messages. You're constantly asking, silently and instinctively, where do I belong? And what happens if I don't? It seems social, emotional, even petty at times, but in truth, it's survival. Because for most of human history, being part of a group was life itself. To be cast out or even quietly excluded often meant hunger, exposure, and danger. There were no outsiders who lived long. You needed others for food, for fire, for safety while you slept. And so, your brain evolved to treat social rejection as physical pain. One fascinating fact, MRI studies show that the brain processes emotional exclusion using the same regions as physical injury. A cutting comment, a lack of eye contact, the sense you're being left out of something. Your brain lights up as if you've been wounded. Because to an ancient nervous system, you have. So when you replay conversations in your head, when you overthink what you said, how you looked, how someone reacted, you're not being overly sensitive. You're enacting a deeply rehearsed instinct. Don't be different. Don't be cut off. Stay in the circle. But there's a flip side to this need. Sometimes, when the threat of exclusion becomes too strong, the brain flips strategies. It says, if I can't belong, then I'll disappear. And you shrink. You quiet your voice. You avoid attention. You mask your traits. You become, for a while, invisible. This isn't failure. This is evolution's backup plan. Because blending in, even by suppressing parts of yourself, was sometimes safer than standing alone. Still is. The eerie detail. In early tribal communities, people who spoke too differently, dressed too unusually, or behaved unpredictably were often feared or exiled. Today, we call this nonconformity. But back then, the cost of deviation was death. So your brain is deeply invested in small signals, tone of voice, facial microexpressions, the subtle pause before someone replies. You may not notice you're noticing, but your survival brain does, every second. And yet, here's the contradiction. The same brain that wants to vanish for safety also wants to be seen, deeply, truly, fully. It's not just social, it's ancient. Belonging wasn't just about being accepted, it was about being known, because people who knew you were more likely to protect you, more likely to understand your needs, more likely to choose you when it mattered. So now you live in two currents at once. One part of you wants to blend in, avoid standing out. Another part longs to be recognized, valued, chosen. And sometimes, this push and pull creates the ache you feel when you walk into a room and don't know where to sit. Or when you post something online and worry it will be misunderstood. Or when you laugh too loud and wonder if you've made yourself vulnerable. These aren't trivial feelings. They're echoes of life or death decisions once made in circles of firelight. And researchers still wonder, how much of modern anxiety comes not from the world itself, but from this ancient social threat detection system firing at full strength in a world with too many signals? There's no clear answer, but maybe you felt it, that strange exhaustion after a party, that sense of being socially overcooked, like your radar has been working overtime, scanning for belonging or betrayal. Let it rest now. Tonight, there is no group to please, no tribe to impress, no subtle glances to decode. Tonight, you belong by default. You're here. You exist. And that is enough. The people who came before you worried about exile. They changed how they spoke, how they dressed, how they held their bodies. They learned to survive by becoming smaller, quieter, softer. But you, right now, don't need to do that. There is no firelight jury watching, no whisper in the leaves, no consequences for simply breathing. Let your body expand again, not to be noticed, not to perform, but just to be. In this quiet space, you are included. Not because you said the right thing, but because you are part of the long, unbroken line of humans who simply kept each other warm. And somewhere deep in your cells, that's still the goal. To keep warm, to be near, to be safe. Let that be true, even now. You wake up and it's 3:17 a.m. The room is quiet. No strange noises, no bad dreams. But you're suddenly awake. Not panicked, not wide-eyed, just there. Floating in stillness. And maybe you wonder, why now? Why always around this time? But your body knows. Because long before alarm clocks and standardized schedules, sleep didn't come in one long stretch. It came in waves. Segmented sleep, they call it. And it may be your brain's original pattern. One fascinating fact, before artificial light, it was common for people to sleep in two distinct blocks. One starting shortly after nightfall, followed by a natural waking period. Then a second sleep that lasted until dawn. That time in between, usually around midnight to 3 a.m., wasn't considered insomnia. It was quiet time. Time for prayer, for sex, for stoking the fire, for watching the stars. And perhaps that's what you're tapping into now. Even if you've never heard of segmented sleep, your brain has. You might lie awake for 20 minutes, or an hour. Not anxious, not energized, just hovering between worlds. Modern life has taught us that sleep should be linear. 8 hours, no interruptions. But that's not how humans lived for most of history. In medieval Europe, historical records describe people waking during the first sleep and moving about the house. In tribal societies, elders would rise to tend the fire or keep watch. Even now, many wild animals, and some humans, show polyphasic sleep patterns with natural dips and rises through the night. And if you're awake at 3 a.m., it doesn't mean something is wrong. It might mean your inner night watch has stirred. The eerie detail. Many traditional villages had no designated guards. Instead, people took turns waking naturally. Unplanned vigilance. The rhythm of waking minds overlapping, always leaving someone alert while others dreamed. You still carry that rhythm. Even in your quiet home, even with doors locked and lights dimmed, your brain hums with cycles. Light, deep, rise, drift, rise again. So don't fight that quiet waking. Let it be gentle. Let it be ancient. If you lie there watching the ceiling, know that your body isn't failing. It's listening, and it always has. Researchers now believe that a return to natural sleep cycles could help ease modern insomnia, not by sleeping more, but by understanding when and why you wake. Maybe that's why some thoughts only come to you in the middle of the night, why you remember things suddenly, why old memories appear uninvited. This hour, this pocket between worlds, might be when your mind is most porous. In the first sleep, your brain is busy collecting. In the second, it begins integrating. And in between, something else happens. Drifting awareness, quiet sorting, a subtle recalibration of self. It's no coincidence that many religious texts and philosophical works mention the fourth watch of the night, the hours just before dawn, as sacred, mysterious, or revealing. Maybe it's not divine intervention. Maybe it's just when the brain has finished cleaning and is ready to listen. Let your body stay soft now. You don't need to check the clock again. You don't need to label this moment restless or wasted. You're in between. That's all. And sometimes, the in-between is where the ghosts whisper. Not the frightening kind, but the ones made of memory. The child you used to be. The thoughts you forgot to think during the day. The voice of someone long gone, saying nothing in particular, just existing beside you. There's a theory that REM sleep evolved to keep the brain alert even while the body rested. A compromise between vigilance and repair. And maybe that explains why your dreams feel most vivid in the hours before sunrise. Why the edge between real and imagined feels so thin. Let it stay thin. Let the boundary blur. You are not broken. You are participating in an ancient cycle, one your ancestors danced through under stars with firelight low, ears open, but heart soft. If you drift again now, it won't be back into the first sleep. It will be into the second, the deeper one, the one that knows you've kept watch, that the fire is still burning, that the world for now can be trusted. Close your eyes again. Not to chase sleep, but to return to your post, on the slow, sacred rotation of human rest. You're brushing your teeth half asleep when you glance at the towel on the hook, and for a fraction of a second, just a flicker, it looks like a face, two folds like eyes, a curve like a mouth. It vanishes as soon as it appears, but it leaves behind that strange awareness. Was that something? You keep seeing them, in clouds, in cracked tiles, in headlights, even in the grain of wood or the light patterns on a wall. It's not just imagination. Your brain is hardwired to see faces, even when they're not there. One fascinating fact. Humans can detect a face in under 200 milliseconds, faster than almost any other shape or symbol. The brain devotes a massive amount of neural real estate to processing facial information, especially in the fusiform gyrus, a region almost solely dedicated to recognizing faces. You don't just see a face. You read it, interpret it, scan it for intention, emotion, threat. It's one of the oldest, fastest reflexes you have. And the reason is simple. For most of your existence as a species, faces meant everything. The difference between friend or stranger, comfort or danger, acceptance or exile. So your brain developed what researchers call hyperactive agency detection, the tendency to assign life, intention, and awareness even to inanimate things. A rustle might be wind or a predator. A shape in the dark might be a coat or a person. Better to assume the latter and live another day. The eerie detail. Newborns just hours old already show preference for face-like patterns. 2 dots in a line, the simplest mimic of eyes and a mouth, are more compelling than any toy or color. You were built for this. That's why it's so hard to sleep in unfamiliar places. Your brain, in the quiet, starts scanning shadows, corners, and open doors. Not because it expects danger, but because it's trying to fill in the blanks. You're not afraid of the dark. You're afraid of what might be hiding just behind the curtain of your perception. And faces, especially ambiguous ones, are what your brain looks for first. There's even a name for false face detection: pareidolia. It's not a flaw. It's a survival tool. It's what kept early humans alive when they heard footsteps behind them and turned around, just in time. But it doesn't stop at shadows and towels. It happens in your dreams too. Have you ever noticed that some dream faces feel strange? Familiar, but wrong. Or detailed, but shifting. Or sometimes just blank. Your brain is generating faces in real time, drawing from memory, invention, and emotion. Some researchers believe the uncanny feeling of dream faces comes from the imperfect reconstruction of real features, layered with instinct. And there's something else. We tend to project faces onto the moon, onto buildings, even onto silence. Because the idea of being watched or accompanied brings a strange comfort, or at least certainty. Stillness is easier to accept if someone else is there, even symbolically, even if they're made of cloud or wood grain. But this obsession with faces goes deeper than safety. It touches identity, connection, memory. Think about how you remember someone you've lost. What comes back first? Not their voice, not their words, their face, the way they looked when they laughed, the shape their eyes made when they were thinking. Your brain stores people in faces, and it pulls them out again when you least expect. And sometimes, late at night when you're drifting near sleep, a face appears, uninvited, unplanned. Someone you haven't seen in years, someone who meant something. Maybe no words are exchanged. Maybe the face just looks at you, gently, and then fades. Researchers still wonder why we conjure such vivid faces in half sleep. Some say it's memory sorting. Others believe it's your brain preparing for tomorrow's social interactions, practicing the reading of subtle cues. But some believe it's neither. That the faces you see are emotional maps, reflections of what you're longing for or trying to release. So tonight, if a face appears in your mind, don't be alarmed. Don't analyze. Let it come and go like wind through curtains. And if you catch your brain turning shadows into someone, a coat into a stranger, a pattern into eyes, smile softly. You're not broken, you're just watching for life. Because somewhere deep inside, your mind still believes the first thing you look for in the dark is a face. And maybe tonight, the only face you need to see is your own reflection in the quiet. Soft, unjudging, a reminder that even alone, you are seen. You stand near the edge of a balcony. Not too close, just close enough to feel it. That subtle tightening in your stomach, that tiny sway in your knees. The strange, almost magnetic pull downward that makes you step back, even though the railing is strong and your footing is firm. And you wonder, why does this make me nervous? I'm not in danger. But your body disagrees. Your body remembers a time when falling meant death. Even now, in a world of elevators, guardrails, and tempered glass, your nervous system treats height with ancient suspicion. Not because you've fallen, but because someone once did. One fascinating fact: babies as young as 6 months show clear signs of height aversion. In the classic visual cliff experiment, infants placed on a glass surface over a patterned floor would crawl right up to the edge, but refuse to cross, even though there was solid support under them. They weren't taught to fear falling. They just knew. That knowledge is buried deep, not in logic, but in instinct. Your vestibular system, nestled in your inner ear, detects motion and orientation. It's not just about balance. It's about spatial threat detection. A mismatch between what your eyes see and what your body feels can send signals of panic, even in the absence of danger. Have you ever stood near a ledge and felt the impulse to jump? Not out of desire, but from something stranger? A flicker of motion inside you. A whisper. What if? Psychologists call this the high place phenomenon, and they still debate what it means. Is it a misfire of the safety reflex? A way your brain tests your own resistance? Or is it your mind trying to process risk through simulation, reminding you what not to do? Whatever the cause, it's not suicidal. It's evolutionary. In the wild, falling didn't mean bruises. It meant broken bones. It meant being left behind. So your ancestors avoided cliffs, loose rocks, unstable trees. And the ones who didn't? They didn't get to pass on their genes. You're descended from those who stayed back, who listened to their gut, who felt that same unease you feel now, standing safely on a balcony, and stepped away. The eerie detail. Even virtual simulations of height, video games, VR experiences, high-definition films can trigger real fear responses in the brain. Sweating, muscle tension, changes in heart rate, even though the body is completely still. It's not the fall you fear, it's the possibility of the fall. The brain doesn't always need proof, just suggestion. And strangely, that fear comes with a companion: awe. There's something undeniably beautiful about looking out from above, over mountains, rooftops, clouds. Your breath catches, your heart expands, and for a moment, fear and wonder live side by side, because height also means perspective, the chance to see farther, to understand your place in the landscape. And that creates a paradox. Your body warns you, but your mind, it leans forward. Humans are one of the only species to seek heights for pleasure, to build towers, climb trees, hike to summits. We chase the feeling, not in spite of the fear, but because of it. Researchers still wonder, why do we love what also unnerves us? Some say it's because awe is a recalibration of ego, that when you look out from high above, your problems shrink, that the mind quiets, not from answers, but from perspective. Others say it's simply the reward of survival. You reached the top, you saw the world, and you're still here. So tonight, if your dreams lift you high above the ground, if you find yourself hovering above rooftops, or flying through treetops, or standing at the edge of something vast and silent, don't fear the fall. Trust the edge, because even in sleep, your brain is testing the balance between fear and freedom, instinct and imagination. Let the heights come. Let them thrill and unsettle you. Let your breath catch in your throat for just a second, and then exhale. You are not in danger. You are just remembering what it means to stand between earth and sky. And maybe, just maybe, you were always meant to fly a little. You're at a cafe. You scan for a table, then drift toward one near the back. Not too close to others, not right in the middle. And if you can, you sit with your back against something solid. A wall, a corner, a high booth. You didn't plan it, but your body did. It's an ancient instinct, one your ancestors trusted long before they had words for it. Because in the wild, the most vulnerable position was one with no view of what's behind you. One fascinating fact, in studies of seating behavior, people overwhelmingly prefer positions where they can see the entrance and have their backs covered, even in places they visit often and trust. Restaurants, waiting rooms, libraries, even elevators. Your body isn't just looking for comfort, it's looking for defensible space. There's a name for this in design psychology, the prospect refuge theory. It suggests that humans instinctively seek out locations that offer a clear view, prospect, of their surroundings and a sense of protection, refuge, behind them. A perch on a rock, a shaded nook, or today, a cafe corner with good sightlines and no one passing behind. This preference goes far beyond safety. It's about cognitive ease. When you feel watched, even unconsciously, your brain devotes subtle resources to vigilance. But when your back is covered and your view is clear, those systems can power down. You think more clearly. You feel less anxious. You relax, almost automatically. The eerie detail. Some of the earliest human shelters, traced through archaeology, show clear design choices that match this instinct. Rear enclosure, side protection, frontal opening. Even in caves, humans gravitated to corners with wide views. Not the center, not the exposed ledges. Just like you may not notice it, but your body makes micro decisions all the time. Where to stand in a room, whether or not to close the door, whether the light should be in front of you or behind. And it's not just about sitting. Even in conversation, you may subtly turn so your side, not your back, faces a room. You may angle your screen just so. You may adjust your posture at a table until you can see the door. This need for orientation, for anchoring, is baked into your nervous system. It's the same reason we use phrases like, I feel backed into a corner. I want to get a better view. I don't like being caught off guard. Language reflects architecture of the mind, and architecture reflects ancient fear. Researchers believe that these patterns once helped protect early humans from ambush, from predators, from rival tribes. But today, those same instincts show up in other ways, like how your stress levels rise in a crowded space where you can't see the exit. Or why open floor plans, despite their popularity, leave many people feeling uneasy and exposed. There's still debate about how much of this is nature versus learned behavior. Do we sit by the wall because we feel safer, or because we've been taught that's where the quiet people sit? Do we face the door because we want to, or because every movie scene shows the hero doing just that? But the more we study it, the clearer it becomes. These instincts are pre-verbal. You feel them before you think them. And they're not wrong. The world may be safer now, but your mind is still shaped by moments when survival depended on placement. So tonight, if you've chosen the side of the bed closer to the wall, if you sleep facing the room, not the window, if you sometimes feel a bit uneasy when someone is behind you, know that this is not weakness. It's wisdom that's older than you are. Let the wall behind you be enough. Let it remind your bones that you are watched over, not watched. That no shadows move where you cannot see. Let the corners become quiet havens. Let the stillness return to your spine. Let your breath deepen now that nothing is left uncovered. You are safe. You are seated just right. And for tonight, no one can sneak up on you. You're drifting off, wrapped in a gentle silence, when a sharp noise cuts through. A car door slamming, a floorboard creaking, a distant bark. It's small, it's probably nothing. But your heart jumps, your breath catches, and for a moment, you're completely alert. You didn't choose to react. Your body did, before your mind had a chance to weigh the logic of it. Because long ago, the difference between silence and sound meant everything. One fascinating fact: the brain's amygdala, the emotional alarm center, responds more strongly to unexpected sounds than to loud, constant ones. A sudden crack in the woods, a twig underfoot. These were often the first signs of a predator. So even now, thousands of years later, a slamming door can trigger the same circuit, a cascade of chemicals prepping your body to flee. Even more curious, the brain stays more relaxed with consistent noise, like rainfall, distant traffic, or a humming fan. Because the predictability of sound signals safety. No pattern breaking equals no threat. That's why many people can sleep through thunderstorms, but wake instantly at a single unfamiliar footstep. It's not about volume, it's about pattern disruption. The eerie detail. Humans are so attuned to changes in rhythm that the brain can detect a break in silence, even while asleep. Researchers have recorded sleeping participants showing microarousals when an unpredictable sound enters the room, even when they don't remember waking. Your ancestors needed this. In the darkness of the forest, the sudden crack of a branch could mean danger. But silence, prolonged, unnatural silence, could mean something worse. Because in nature, even predators make noise. So when the night goes too quiet, the mind begins to stir. You've probably felt it. Lying in bed when the world is too still, your ears straining not for a sound, but for the lack of one. We're not built for perfect silence. We're built for listening. That's why white noise is so calming. It offers the illusion of continuity, soothing the parts of the brain that are always scanning, always on guard. And that's also why certain sounds, like a baby's cry or the crack of glass, trigger instant, full-body awareness, even in deep sleep. These sounds override your resting state. They were designed to. They carry evolutionary urgency, to wake you, to warn you, to keep you alive. Researchers still debate how many of our modern anxieties come from this hyper-vigilant auditory system, constantly reacting to a world that's louder, busier, and more unpredictable than our ancestors ever imagined. Maybe it's not that you're anxious. Maybe it's that your mind is just too well trained. So if you flinch at sounds, if you jump at doorbells or wince when someone calls your name from another room, it's not weakness. It's your body doing what it was shaped to do: respond, react, survive. But tonight, there is no threat. The doors are locked. The hallway is empty. The wind outside is only wind. Let the steady hum return. A fan in the corner, the low buzz of your devices, the softness of breath. Let the silence be soft, not sharp. Let your mind listen, but not brace. Let it shift from sentinel to sleeper. You are not in the woods anymore. You are not in danger. And if the silence breaks, it will be for nothing more than a passing car, a shifting branch, a memory crossing your threshold. Let it pass. You've earned your rest. And tonight, your ears can take the night off. You lie awake, staring at the faint glow seeping through the curtains. It's not streetlight. It's not your phone. It's the moon, full and still, watching without sound. And even though you're tired, truly tired, something in you feels restless. You're not imagining it. The moon has always called to your body in ways you may never fully understand. One fascinating fact: multiple sleep studies have shown that people tend to sleep less deeply and for shorter durations around the full moon, even when they can't see it, even in light-controlled labs, even when they don't know the lunar phase. Something in the body seems to know, and it makes sense. For most of human history, the moon was the only light source at night. And when it was full, the world became more visible, safer to move, easier to hunt, more likely for danger to approach. So your brain, shaped across millennia of moonlit nights, stirs when the light grows. Your vigilance flickers awake. Your senses sharpen. Even your dreams may change. Anthropologists believe that humans evolved to be more active during full moons, especially in warmer seasons. More social, more exploratory. Some ancient tribes even held rituals specifically timed to lunar phases, not just for farming or tides, but because they knew the body listens to the moon. The eerie detail. Many predators, wolves, big cats, even certain insects, also adjust their behavior based on moonlight. And in turn, prey species do too. A moonlit night could mean better vision for escape or exposure. So both hunters and the hunted grew more cautious, more reactive, and you are the descendant of both. That restlessness you feel during certain nights, that flickering wakefulness, it's not insomnia, it's instinct. The moon didn't just shape your sleep. It shaped your calendars, your rituals, your stories. It's no coincidence that so many mythologies tie human emotion, especially transformation, to the lunar cycle. In some cultures, the full moon meant fertility. In others, it was a sign of madness or heightened awareness. Even the word lunatic comes from luna, the moon, a reflection of how deeply it was believed to influence the mind. And researchers still wonder, is the moon's effect biological or psychological? Does it tug on us the way it pulls the tides? Or is it our expectation of its power that gives it strength? Either way, it works. You've probably had nights where everything feels a little too loud, where your thoughts don't settle, where sleep is close but always just beyond reach. Maybe, without knowing it, you're moon watching from the inside. Even your hormones respond to light, especially melatonin, the one that helps you sleep. Brighter nights, even natural ones, can suppress melatonin, making sleep lighter, shallower. And once, that was a gift, because light meant activity. Light meant being ready. But now, with screens and lamps and artificial suns glowing from every corner, your body's ancient lunar clock has become confused. It still tries to follow the rhythms. It still waits for darkness that never fully comes. So tonight, if the moon is full, or if it's just your thoughts that feel full, don't resist. Don't scold your body for stirring. This is the rhythm of thousands of years. Let your mind wander through moonlit memories. Let the glow be gentle. Let it remind you that not all nights are meant for deep sleep. Some are meant for quiet wakefulness, for thought, for slow turning, for feeling alive in the stillness. Let the tides inside you rise and fall. Sleep will come, not always as a flood, but sometimes like the moon's own journey, partial, shifting, always returning. You don't need to force rest. You just need to follow the curve of the night. And when you do drift, you may find yourself dreaming under silver skies, moving silently through pale fields, guided not by logic, but by light that has watched over you since before your name. You're walking alone, maybe down a hallway or through a quiet store, and suddenly you feel it, that unmistakable sensation that someone is watching you. Even if you turn and see nothing, even if you're alone, the feeling lingers, electric and ancient. This isn't paranoia. It's not overthinking. It's an instinct so deeply rooted that your brain reacts before you're even conscious of it. One fascinating fact, studies using functional MRI have shown that a specific part of your brain, the superior temporal sulcus, activates strongly in response to eye gaze, even from photos or images. And even more, you're quicker at detecting direct gaze than averted gaze, even in your peripheral vision. In other words, you don't just notice faces, you notice eyes. And you especially notice when those eyes are on you. Why? Because for most of your evolutionary life, being watched was a matter of survival, watched by predators, by enemies, or by your own group, measuring your place. And so the brain learned to scan constantly, not just for shapes or sounds, but for attention. Who's looking at you? And what do they want? It's a question your mind has been answering every day, whether you realize it or not. The eerie detail. Even artificial eyes, dots on a wall, stylized cartoon faces, or cameras in public can cause people to modify their behavior, becoming more polite, more cautious, more rule-following. Because deep down, the feeling of being watched changes what we do. You felt this. Maybe while typing a message and suddenly sensing someone behind you. Maybe in a meeting when you feel someone's gaze linger. Maybe even online, where no one is physically present, and yet you feel visible. That sense of social presence, even when imagined, activates the same neurological networks as real observation. Because your brain doesn't always know the difference. It was built for a world where to be watched was either a blessing or a threat. In tribal life, being seen meant you were part of the group. Your behavior mattered, your presence was noted. But being watched too closely, or without context, could signal challenge, judgment, or even betrayal. So your body learned to tune into that electric awareness. Even now, In modern rooms and safe buildings, the hairs on your neck still respond to that invisible pressure. A presence, a gaze. Sometimes real, sometimes not. Researchers still debate, is the sixth sense of being watched real perception or just heightened sensitivity to small cues, like shadows, temperature, or sound shifts? But either way, it doesn't matter, because you feel it. And that's enough. And here's the strange part. Your brain is also drawn to eyes in the dark. Have you ever looked into shadows, into a closet, or a forest, or a hallway, and imagined a pair of eyes looking back? It's not because you want to be afraid. It's because eyes represent agency, intention, life, and your brain is constantly searching for the presence of another mind. It wants to know what else is thinking nearby. In social groups, eye contact was essential for cooperation, to hunt, to warn, to share. And now, even in silence, you might feel your body respond to eyes you can't see. Because the possibility of presence has always mattered more than the proof of it. So tonight, if you feel watched, even in the quiet of your room, let that feeling soften. Let it drift. Maybe it's not fear. Maybe it's memory. The memory of what it meant to matter in someone else's eyes. To be part of a shared awareness. To belong to the seen world. And maybe, as your thoughts float deeper, you'll feel a kind of safety in that. Not the fear of eyes, but the comfort of being known. Because someone is always watching. Not with judgment, but with patience. The child you once were. The ancestors who shaped your instincts. The quiet witness inside you, still keeping time by flickering glances and quiet reflections. And they're telling alone, even in sleep, even in stillness. There's a trail you've walked more than once. Maybe it's through your neighborhood, or along a park path, or just a hallway you cross every day. You know each turn, each landmark. You might even walk it without thinking. And still, when given the choice, you choose it again. Familiar, predictable, safe. Why? One fascinating fact. Researchers have found that the brain releases more dopamine when returning to familiar paths than when exploring new ones, especially when those paths once led to reward or safety. The comfort of repetition isn't laziness. It's a deep biological strategy. Because for ancient humans, unfamiliar territory meant risk. Unknown paths could lead to predators, cliffs, rival groups. Familiar paths were vetted, proven. They led to water, shelter, food. And so your mind developed a powerful preference for the known route, not out of habit, but survival. Even now, you may take the same road to work, sit in the same spot in class, reach for the same mug each morning. It's not just routine, it's reassurance. The eerie detail. Wild animals, from deer to wolves to elephants, tend to follow highly repetitive paths, carving near invisible trails through forests and fields, known as game trails. These paths are passed down through generations, slightly altered by time, but always echoing back. A kind of geographical memory, etched into instinct. You carry that too, a longing to return, to trace your own steps, to rewalk what once brought safety. And this goes deeper than walking. Think about how often you revisit the same thoughts, even the same memories. Not because you want to dwell, but because the mind, like the feet, follows the trails it knows. This can be soothing, but sometimes it's limiting. You may feel stuck, circling familiar ground. You may crave change, but hesitate at the unfamiliar path just ahead. Because while the known path offers safety, the unknown demands something harder, trust. Your brain hesitates before forging new routes, whether it's a trail, a habit, or a belief. It wants proof, and proof comes slowly. That's why change is uncomfortable, why starting something new can feel almost physically painful. It's your body whispering, this road hasn't kept us alive before. Be careful, but eventually, new paths become old ones. New steps become rhythms, and the mind adjusts. Researchers still debate just how much of this preference is cognitive versus chemical. Is it habit, or is it neural efficiency? Is the brain simply avoiding unnecessary strain, or is it truly guarding against threat? Perhaps both. You are a creature of pattern, but also of possibility. And tonight, as your thoughts wander, you may notice them return to old ideas, old conversations, old worries. Don't be alarmed. They're your foot-worn paths. And even if they don't lead anywhere new, they offer something just as valuable, familiarity. Let them play out. Let the mind pace its quiet loops. There's no need to force change here, in the dark. Let your awareness follow the path of least resistance. And maybe, from there, you'll spot a new branch, a faint trail diverging from the old. You don't have to take it, but knowing it's there, that's the beginning. For now, walk the quiet path you've walked 100 nights before. Let the memory of it soothe your pulse. Let each thought land like a footstep on well-packed earth, and know that even in dreams, you may return to familiar rooms, familiar forests, familiar cities that don't exist. Because your mind prefers to sleep where it's been before. And in that repetition, in that slow circling, there's peace. There's a kind of quiet that feels heavier than silence. You might feel it just before sleep, when the room dims and your thoughts begin to spread out, slow and low like smoke. And somewhere inside, a part of you waits. For something warm, something flickering, something that once kept your ancestors alive, the fire. You've probably never needed it to survive the night. You might only light candles now for mood or warmth or celebration. But your nervous system still holds the memory of sitting close to firelight, of the glow painting faces, of shadows dancing on stone walls. One fascinating fact, studies show that watching flickering firelight reduces blood pressure and calms the nervous system, even more than other calming visuals. Why? Because for tens of thousands of years, fire meant safety. Its crackle drowned out the forest, its light drove back predators, its heat promised survival. And so, your brain evolved to relax in its presence. But it wasn't just the fire, it was the circle around it. That's the eerie detail. For most of human history, we fell asleep to stories told by firelight, stories of survival, of gods and monsters, of what lay beyond the hill. And in those hours, surrounded by warmth, the mind shifted from survival mode to dreaming. Your inner world opened beside the flames, and that pattern remains. Even now, the glow of a phone, the flicker of a screen, the hum of a bedside lamp, they mimic fire in imperfect ways. And maybe that's why we crave soft light before sleep, why darkness without glow can feel too empty, why we still seek the comfort of something gentle, moving, alive. Researchers wonder if the brain treats certain lights as ancestral cues, activating rhythms of rest when the flicker is just right. Not too bright, not too harsh. A modern echo of the campfire. And in your dreams too, you might feel it. A campfire that never existed, a hearth that glows without fuel. You are not alone in that space, because in some sense, you've never really left the fire. It burns still, behind your eyelids, in the way your mind turns quiet at night, in the way you replay soft voices, shared glances, hands passing food around invisible circles. That's what your brain still looks for. It doesn't just want warmth, it wants connection. The slow sharing of silence, the comfort of presence without words, the flicker of recognition that others are near and watching the dark with you. So tonight, as your thoughts settle, let that old memory rise again. Not a picture, but a feeling. That someone is tending the flame. That your place in the circle is still warm. That the shadows are kept at bay, not by brightness, but by belonging. Let your breath deepen. Let the flickering calm wash over you. Let the echoes of the fire reach you. Not through sound, but through rhythm. You are still there, and it's safe now. Now, let the thoughts begin to slow. Not stop, just drift. Like ash lifting into a night breeze. Let your body feel a little heavier, a little warmer, as if wrapped in something soft and familiar. The story has carried you gently, and now it's time to let go of its edges. There is nothing more to follow. No paths to choose, no decisions waiting, just the hush of what you already know, that your body remembers more than your mind does, that it listens for echoes of footsteps at fire and wind, and that in all this quiet, you are still being carried. Let your last waking thoughts be soft ones, images that blur at the edges, the flicker of a face, a distant song, a path through moonlight. If you don't fall asleep yet, that's okay. You're already closer than you were. That's all for tonight. Let your mind keep floating or drift into sleep. I'll be here again next time.